The Movie Club movies. Tonight's feature. 1997. Nothing to Lose. Starring MartinLAwerence and TimRobbins. Touchstone Pictures. Directed by Steve Oedekerk. Touchstone Pictures, always a really great little animated intro with the sort of tubular blue over the black screen. The production of that is really neat. The rating is R. Rated R. Nothing to Lose is not available at my region of libraries. Steve Oedekerk, famously a partner in comedy writing with Jim Carrey. He did a lot of movies that you probably saw as a comedy. I'm not going to sit here and highlight this gentleman. MartinLAwerence, much more worth highlighting, although I don't need to go into all of his roles. Martin, the TV series, Bad Boys, the movie series. It's all over the place now. That movie has not stopped playing for 10 years. KellyPreston, MartinLAwerence, TimRobbins. MartinLAwerence as Terrence Paul Davidson, T-Paul. KellyPreston as Anne. That great list of KellyPreston movie titles: 10 to Midnight, Metal Storm, Christine, Mischief, Secret Admirer, Space Camp, 52 Pickup, Love at Stake, A Tiger's Tale, Spellbinder, Twins, The Experts, Where She Meets JT, Run, Only You, Dusk to Dawn, Curdled, Jerry Maguire, Addicted to Love, Holy Man, Jack Frost, View from the Top, Sky High, Cat in the Hat, Old Dogs. Incredible list of titles. I wonder if her and her agent were just like, that rings a bell, baby. TimRobbins as Nick. Where do you begin and end with his list? But I can throw in High Fidelity, Hudsucker Proxy, Human Nature, The Player, Howard the Duck, Bull Durham, and a surprising list of others. Cadillac Man with Robin Williams from 1990 is one of those The Movie Club movie suggestions. It's not a perfect movie, but it's pretty damn good, and it's worth digging up. One of my favorite actors, John C. McGinley as Rig. He's from Point Break, one of my favorites, and a Movie Club movies titan, an influencer of me and how I chose movies for about 3 years. Shakedown, Blue Jeans Cop, one of my favorites. It's actually aged to be sort of horrific. Take caution on that movie. Office Space, Identity, Highlander 2, and then at times he's a standout in the background of things. John C. McGinley, and you might even know him from TV, The Scrubs. Giancarlo Esposito, wow, what a surprise. You know, this movie is stuck in my mind for many years, and I felt like the acting was good enough. I didn't always recall who was in each role. And Giancarlo Esposito is really doing an incredible job in this movie. And to see him in other things well after this movie is a big surprise to revisit and see an early stages of his craft. He's from Monkey Bone, Villain Hypnos. He's also from a Nash Bridges episode called Curveball. And he's in an upcoming Captain America feature. Moving forward to my vulnerable moment in this movie, I have to confess a major teenage crush of mine is in this movie. RebeccaGayheart, Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. She's playing Cliff Booth's deceased ex-wife. Also, Michael McKean from Laverne and Shirley TV series and Spinal Tap. So many others. Best in Show. So many others. So many TV appearances. So many movie appearances. Saturday Night Live alum. He's funny all the time. We begin with a face of TimRobbins, speaking calmly, in a low, firm tone. Things are just not working out, he continues, in this serious tone. KellyPreston, as Anne, pensively smirks on. You kinda gross me out. I came to realize, Nick continues, you are a big fat idiot. Laughs between the two. TimRobbins continues. Okay, straight face. Anne has a turn and whips an awkward tease of experimenting with other men. Lots of other men. Antonio does this thing, but your dad is the best. And Nick was already cracking. They both bust out laughing. That's 1997 lingo for LOL. KellyPreston exclaims, You are no match! I have no equal! And they embrace. To clarify, they are a healthy, committed couple. Here is the proof. Next we hear a tongue-wagging sound inside a mouth. Brrr, brrr, brrr. A motorboat noise made by a man in a skyscraper office. An ad firm? With Mr. Nick at the center of a half moon of assistants and associates. Business, busy business as usual. The boat sounds goes along with an advert for a motorboat company, and this man, Alan, is pitching the motorboat, would represent this company along with the commercial and jingle. A short scene that I guess explains some deets about Nick and what he does, and a tag to what kind of man he is, because we will see in a moment a bit more. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. In the following cultural context, discussion topic. This scene interests me on this viewing because I know how popular Mad Men was. I recognize the popularity and production. I, however, haven't watched any of Mad Men, just a clip here and there, and, maybe a parody or whatever. I know a couple things from those explanations, and here I see what an influence in stepping up productions of such an industry, maybe films like The Firm, Wall Street, The Post, 3 Days of the Condor, Men at Work, set the new standards for Hollywood in The Office, because this scene is fine for distracting 12-year-old me when avoiding homework, but it's not a movie for 12-year-olds, and it sets off a violent, serious, and adult criminal adventure based on miscommunication and small mistakes. In today's cinema, LOL movies, Hollywood blockbuster comedies, this scene would cut off into a prime improv corner. 10 years ago, it may have been Jonah Hill, Nick Kroll, Michael Cera, Rob Hubel, and the characters would go on about the mundanity of their stupid jobs, which, with all certainty, would be inferior to our main character's job or position. TJ Miller is Deadpool's bartender, Ben Affleck is Jason Bateman's bartender in Extract, and the scene would go on, and we would think of a character as being a gem and have something funny to repeat to friends who have not seen the movie. And that grew. Those players are now stars. And we do get to see young comedians and writers and improv stars carry on their glow with small characters, become a ramble of improv sometimes not even pairing well with the movie or narrative. It became overplayed and overdone. Much like this ramble just carries on for far way too long and smears the Windex of new stars because I leave with something annoying. This scene interests me on this viewing because I know how popular Mad Men was. I recognize the popularity and production. I, however, haven't watched any of Mad Men, just a clip here and there. I know a couple things from those explanations, and here I see an influence in stepping up productions of such industries, because like architecture and architects, as characters in the 90s, it's a career not often portrayed truthfully. Nothing to lose. These characters at this ad agency may be skilled working actors or writers. They could have used a boost of some other funny buddies of the times, like the Nick Krolls, like the Rob Hubels of this time. Good work, Alan. Zachary, you're up. We have not gone to focus group yet. These are just preliminary sketches, and there is a sketch of a walking chocolate chip cookie. Behind the walking cookie is a trail of chocolate chips. Another person we will not see again is Nick's secretary, who for this moment has a call from Nick's wife Anne, who is checking to confirm they are on for a night out. New York Philharmonic? Nick has been busy enough to skip on 2 other night outs, and this is a can't miss. Add up that these birds started their love story with us by breaking up, center screen, zoomed in. Just playing though. And now Nick has a recent history of no-shows with his wife. Oh, and Anne adds before forgetting, Anne has her sister coming into town, Queen of Mission Peace Corps, which I can't imagine being in any way glamorous. Another assistant cuts in on Nick. PB ASAP. Onslaught of initials. I hate you. Me too. Bungee jumping. PB by Michael McKean. Reminds me of Along Came Polly with Brian Brown playing a no-fear extreme sport enthusiast. McKean returns with more ickiness, mentioning, Charles McKenty Crackers, LOL, is coming into town and PB owes him a dinner. However, subtly, he is showing he has a hot date. Nothing about this date is really mentioned, it's just worth it for PBs. Maybe this movie is for 12-year-olds. Maybe this movie is for 12-year-olds. And then Nick is deflecting by asking about a folk statue among PB's office collection, a fertility idol, which could be very real and def worth our respect. It is so funny he has a collection like this, like in his office, because there are others. For scenery, just kind of similar. I think he likes me. Nurug, the fertility god. It's Paleolithic. And I think, as an actor, this is made-up info. He traded some others away, and Ides of March, Gold Arrayus. A Gold Arrayus is real, and would be pretty cool to see. This guy is a well-done movie prop, but it looks more like a well-whittled boner dong. This and the fellas have short quips back and forth about such phallic historical content. We also hear how much PB is worth, and like I mentioned, what kind of man NickBeam is. He seems to have a slice of morals and an ethical American pie because he doesn't volunteer to help PB out. PB volunteers him mid-sentence and runs out of the room like his blue or yellow pills are kicking in as we speak, or like he's cheating on Nick with Nick's wife. Because Nick is with his team, sticking around, he is missing his plans with his wife. No info was given if he had called her to let her down. He seems to, as his next step, is to leave and surprise her. A late workday. This is def a movie where I'm learning that time can be ambiguous, whether this is 4 p.m., 8 p.m., the way the lighting is, it seems sunny, light, positive, and early afternoon. And I have a feeling that this is how to produce such a 90s comedy because, like so many others, While You Were Sleeping, Groundhog Day, What About Bob, Motorama, and Captain Ron, staying in the daylight will apply happiness and good feelings to your movie. From my perspective, I don't know, it's all about lighting. Another assistant, or the same from before, interrupts the team meeting in his office that McGinty rescheduled, and Nick is free to head out. As he leaves his office and then the building, he stops for some flowers. Here, in the corner shop, still open at 4, 5:30, or 8, outside the elevator bay, And still inside the skyscraper, a sort of vestibule small biz, mind-boggling, and something I don't see enough in movies and I have only seen partial IRL. I have seen small kiosks like this at professional buildings, and they are usually closed sharp after lunch, like at 1:45. I have seen newsstands, snack stands, coffee carts, wraps and smoothie stands. Sometimes these snack shacks are called sundries, and sometimes these are things at hotels in the city, as well as these places like an airport only carry so much. Nick is leaving with a racehorse-sized bushel of yellow flowers. In the movie Die Hard, which TMCMS screened for the Christmas shopping season as a Christmas-adjacent movie, we were at the start of the trend. In that movie, Al Leong played one of the many iconic henchmen. He snags a candy bar while his men maintain control of the building. In this very location, just inside the vestibule at the base of the skyscraper. And contrary to some podcasts, Al Leong grabs a candy bar from the sundry shelves, which would have minimal business operations like a cash register or basic standard stock, like candy bars, newspapers, a sewing kit, aspirin. This sundry seems to be based around flowers, and behind the counter is RebeccaGayheart playing Danielle. Nick flirts with Danielle. He leaves with the flowers. In the background, there is ADR of a guy saying, "That's right,
That's right. Pull it off lightly.
what is that? That's right, that's right, pull it off lightly." What is that? Who? What is that? Where are we applying that ADR? Nick makes his way to his own bedroom and sees a stunt double for KellyPreston, who doesn't turn around, and TimRobbins does not bother interrupting. He backs out of the hallway, back towards the kitchen. The flowers are still soaking in the sink. He finds cufflinks that have PB. The music is daytime TV light, and when he confirms that people are in his bed, a low wolf howl is heard. LOL. Nick leaves and just starts driving. "Hey asshole, get out of the road!" Through Los Angeles? Jump by Naughty by Nature is the needle drop. He stops and is on a back street and is still maintaining a zombie-like comatose stare straight ahead, possibly getting a breath of air, possibly rethinking his current actions and goal. His car is stopped, and silently, MartinLAwerence has entered the passenger seat of NickBeam. MartinLAwerence is playing a nickname, T. Paul. I will vary who I call MartinLAwerence because his name is terrible. Welcome to hell, B. He has a gun against Nick's face. MartinLAwerence is doing what only MartinLAwerence does, and I will only play out samples as I am not going to be able to replay Martin's funniest stuff and parts. At times of the time, however, he is very comical and worth a watch. That's why it's a movie club movie, and I had seen this upon its release. Nick says, "You picked the wrong guy on the wrong day," and hits the pedal like Gus in a Mustang. Nick locks the doors and is flooring his large SUV across town through lights. Dogs have to shift to the other side of the street. There's even an incredible driving stunt that runs his car into a newspaper delivery truck, and a stack of newsprint goes flying. And as Nick shoots his Yukon out of an alley, a stream of papers comes with him. And that looked wonderful. I love that shot. "You're driving on the sidewalk. People gotta walk there." Nick flaunts that Terrence wanted his wallet. So Nick throws it past Terrence, out the passenger window, and onto the street. "That was money!" Mace to T-Paul's face. MartinLAwerence says, "The honeys dug my eyes! Honeys loved my eyes!" To me, after this watch, that line seems like from an early draft that made its way all the way to the end, because T-Paul is putting on a front and is stubborn enough to not let it down, because "honeys dug my eyes" is not something a human being says. It's something that's written before a writer's lunch break and never revisited. Nick's 1995 GMC Yukon hops a street hill and heads towards a busy intersection. No stopping. T-Paul faints or is knocked out by shock. Or edit for story. The screens fade in and back again. We see sparse roadway scenery, sun and sand possibly. We only hear Terrence, and he is freaking himself out in hopes to gain Nick's attention as he is silently driving. We're in the fucking desert. I'm in a car with a psycho freaky Jason. Hey, please don't kill me, freaky Jason. I said please don't kill me, freaky Jason. Nick finds a stop for coffee and parks. First words from Nick since he saw his wife cheating. Get out, get out, get out, get out, get out. Saya fucking Nora, I can't feel my ass. You can't just leave me out here. Lard sizzles on a griddle. Remember my cousin Vinny? My favorite diner scene? Here's one of the only contenders for just sort of seeing fat on a griddle. And that entertains me on a movie screen.
But in real life, I'd rather not have it. Along with my cousin Vinny, Nothing to Lose is always, I've always just remembered the diner scene.
Terrence has been out in that parking lot. He got right out of the car and has just been uncomfortable. And he just kind of lingers in the parking lot as Nick enters the diner and sort of trails in. Terrence meets Nick at a table and our opposites attract. Bonding begins. T-Paul offers, "You drive me home and I will forget about the kidnapping." Nick rebuffs, "You tried to rob me. You had a gun to my head." T-Paul, "The gun wasn't loaded. I told you that." "You're a bad person. Don't expect me to feel sorry for you." He is getting loud, and the other patrons can hear, including a head waitress, which, think of a waitress at a roadside diner, okay? Now think of her boss, also a waitress. Okay, she approaches Nick and T-Paul's table. The diner has a blue, red, black milk sign. It's same as the diner in the AHA video, Take On Me. It's like a sign at a head length next to the diner table. This diner or set was the same set used in this AHA video, and just from the power of streaming YouTube videos and watching 80s and 90s movies, things have been clicking, and 2020 was just a big pond for me for that, because I just ingested a lot of nostalgia and stuff that was just streaming in around that time. And I just kind of remembered as I took all these notes on these movies. But this head waitress, who, I'm just applauding you, just think of any waitress on a roadside diner. She asks if there's a problem, then asks Nick if Terrence is bothering him. I can't repeat all of his zingers, but here's a gem hard to forget. "Lady, for all you know, he could be a celebrity stalker. I could be Denzel Washington. Take a good look." The waitress, she remains alpha and requests they pay for their coffee as she has seen these things escalate. And let me tell you, these kinds of folks are alive and well in the exact parts where this very recording is taking place. I assure you all, my coffee remains paid in these parts. Believe it or not, at one point I had moved and was driving all my things and was on the edge of town at a franchise diner where the alpha waitress there was just as inquisitive and asked, "I must be on a road trip." And I mention, "I'm moving to the coast." "No," she says. Yes! And now I'm back, Peg. You twit.
There's a lot of support for not doing things here. There's very little support for doing things here.
Nick goes for his wallet, chest pockets, back pockets. Keen T-Paul offers the few dollars to pay for the coffees at the table, winning back the respect of the alpha waitress and turning the tables to his side, if just for the moment. Just as Keen, a glow begins above Nick's head. He remembers he has a spare credit card in the side compartment of his truck. And I don't know why, but they race together to get at it first. The card trades hands, and at points, each of them acts defensive against the other. They are scrapping and fighting at the foot level of the door of the driver's side where this card was in a side compartment. Their waitress hits them over the head with a cast iron pan, which was always a standard at diners, and Jack Black gets knocked by his buddy Mos Def Yasin Bey in the Be Kind Rewind TMCMS movie classic, and wow, that would not be pleasant. But I think because of early cinema, cartoons, and most likely origins in vaudeville, this gag has always played in Hollywood comedies. I wonder if the analog for today would be blocking someone on Facebook or knocking someone off their Crocs. I actually think it might be a prank using like alcoholic seltzers. I don't know, but it makes me think if you get a boba tea, do you eat every tapioca in your cup? I think that would make me sick. What if you throw those? Would that be as traumatizing as a pan to the head? Pan to the head in VR? The card is at the table, expired. The two guys are holding ice to their head. MartinLAwerence is fixing a broken nose, which is incredibly real and also clown-like. So to know, MartinLAwerence is a master comedian. So why are you out here? I'm curious. I'm a student of human nature. I forgive you. It's clear you have woman problems. I am laughing my ass off. Way off base. Even if I wanted to talk about it, which I don't, it wouldn't be with you. To catch us up on some scenery, what can really make a movie like this? We have a few examples from our past eps, like the funky lamps in the background of Night of the Comets radio station. If a movie leans to the mediocre, obscure, or awkward side of cinema, it could be said, then what is so good about these? And TMCMS replies every time, if there is something done well or done right at the heart of a gem like Masterpiece Mess, then the chances heighten that a movie could leave some lasting impressions and earn legs for an extended period of popular view, as is the case for many VHS era 80s, 90s movies, as well as raw film grain genuine efforts of classic 70s, which may never reach film stock technology again. We are in a digital era and an era of disposability, not seen since the early VHS era. Also, things can be manipulated after filming. Hell, after editing. George Lucas pioneered the way, and recently, HD TGM covered Beekeeper, highlighting a confusing scene that may or may not contain digital balloons to help clean up background mistakes. The general idea I am giving here is a perspective on films that may have missed the mark, visually or performance-wise, but make the mark of unique set dressing, colorful, unique designing. We are not the worst case scenario. Here we get a good vibed movie, time stamped in the late 90s, and the stars do not have much to work with. However, the production is not inept, and we get scenes with brightness and supported by surroundings. Let's get to some. The diner is very similar to Dumb and Dumber, where Lloyd and Harry meet Seabass. Where they are sitting now has a great feel, maybe unrealistic, but cozy and adventurous, as these two get to know each other and have already started on a dangerous agreement together. Surrounded by blinds, at their table, we get a peek at Arizona expansiveness and small-town lurkiness. The diner is filled with folks from these local parts, and while arguing, customers turn to look, and we see incredible glimpse into actual 90s fashions, and as some would say, salt of the earth, day players. They sit on comfy, cartoon-like red booths. Nick at one point has perfectly seated cactus, almost challenging him to a measure-off of their heights in the frame. TimRobbins, also known for being a tall man. This all rounds out, and it's easier to appreciate a doozy of a movie when some of what you are seeing is actually easy on the eyes. I am talking scene by scene, not just young actresses or over buff leading men, or just hot cars, geesh. We're right in the middle of them catching up, but also Nick has vulnerably explained that he caught his wife cheating. But just like we know, he doesn't give enough detail to know what he really saw. But he explains to T. Paul, MartinLAwerence continues a monologue of sorts. I can only repeat so much. You give her some nastiness? What about him? Did you fuck him up? I bet you hit him with a bat. Oh wait, you capped his ass. That's why you out here. Nick confesses to us, the audience. Look,
Listen,
I didn't shoot him. I didn't say anything to my wife. I just left. Thank you, Nick. Tell him, so I don't sound crazy explaining that part of the movie you didn't do anything. You didn't say, and how could you? PB, you jerk. You communicated nothing. MartinLAwerence continues with his own monologue, and it gets worse because it's skewed and misogynistic. But MartinLAwerence didn't write it. He acts it out and makes it his own. And at parts, the act he's put up is very funny. It's like Conan O'Brien or Paul Scheer can be funny just talking. Here's my snippet. I go home, my dinner's on the table. Bam! I don't want to hear shit, woman. Another zinger is, man, I would have went back to that house and I would have pulled a Terminator on the front door. Boom, boom, boom! Who the fuck do you think you're playing with, woman? LMAO. It's just over the top, and if he tweaked the lines, I don't know, because it is what a guy who is faking would say, like in an episode ago. I should have said, I would go Terminator on Meatloaf, the bully in Motorama. Boom, boom, boom! Who do you think you're playing with, Meatloaf? Who do you think I am? Some fruity pie? I ain't no fruity pie, Meatloaf. I'm NickBeam, and NickBeam ain't putting up with that BS. ML has a way with names. NickBeam, Mike Lowry. Other lines worthy of mentioning, and like with any scene of this caliber or topics, feel free to find a clip out there on the web. I'm gonna one-time your ass, he concludes, with increasing energy and less thought-out statements of false confidence. Cry on Super Dick. Bumblebee checks his extremities. I'm fit, I'm lit, and I ain't taking shit. And he starts saying the B word loosely. And Nick pounces on him from across the table. LMAO! Pure Luck is a movie scenes like this remind me of. Someone with a short fuse of patience and a thin film of frustration when paired with unpairable characters, and they work things out at a diner. Another could be Beginnings of Training Day with Ethan Hawke and Denzel. The next scene is a quick fuel up before heading out back to the city. Nick daydreams of his marriage to Anne, and of course KellyPreston looks like an ideal white dress bride. And Nick wasn't watching his gas tank. He overflows it and has to manage the spill and hanging up the spout. While he gets a look, he sees and hears T. Paul holding up the store inside. Give me your money. His lower leg is covered in gas. His frustration overtakes him, and he scrambles to the driver's seat to pull away, leaving T-Paul with his consequences. T-Paul is super quick and again has made it into the passenger seat, no problem. The two argue over whether that was the right thing to do, and our movie goes up a notch, levels up. Buford from the petrol station is in his rat rod pickup truck with a loaded shotgun, and a chase is on. Meanwhile, a gem of a character is rolling towards this whole mess, and we get a painting of a sunny, drier air Cousin Vinny road scene, as the county sheriff is remarking on what he has driven into. Nick wanted T-Paul to return the money. T-Paul used his only money back at the diner. What did you think they were going to do for money to fill up? And again, it's Nick's fault for throwing his wallet out the window. Would you look at these crazy sons of bitches? So funny, this actor has a way of delivering which really helps support your local Hollywood comedy. These lines stuck with me from my first watch. He created a character here. That's all I can say. Local gas station operator is right behind Nick and Terrence and Nick are headed straight towards the sheriff, who does not swerve to avoid the dog play and runs right into Buford, the local petro operator, whose name is Earl, as the sheriff has wrecked safely and close enough to say hello. T-Paul has some funny bits about he is alive and he is touching his face and eyes, moving his eyelids as if he's checking a camcorder to see if the lens is working. How did you know that hillbilly was going to turn first? This always falls for me because we know Nick is ultimately not crazy, and the two of them have already spoken enough to see that they are both humans, just stuck in their own personal messes, like many of us in real life. So Nick is not insane. He is making insane choices to get out of his insane scenarios, triggered by T-Paul holding a gun to his face. Let's move away from these tangles. I am just writing with these two. Sorry for my script scrutiny. They roll like what? Mile, 2 miles, 5 miles away and stop near a Stuckey's billboard. Do they serve bongo dogs? Nick is continuing to browbeat T-Paul for using a gun and to rob the store owner, no matter their current scenario. The gun wasn't loaded, Nick. Nick insists on a righteous side of things. You think you're never gonna get caught? It's beetle-headed, to which T-Paul wants to know what that word is. Synonyms for stupid. Here's a synonym for procreation. Fuck you. Okay, just a moment. I'm taking notes. Cinnamon for recreation? Spaz you. Acronym for comedy writing, LOL. It's easy when you sit in your rich house. I'm not rich. Oh yeah? How big is your TV, Nick? And not to be a downer, but I'm really feeling similar to Terrence, where if you are paying on a standalone home anywhere USA, you seem rich, because post 2016, it has seemed impossible to live in any combination of living spaces without having to be rich. Nick does answer, and he mentions 50-inch TV. T-Paul is like, get in the car, and TimRobbins yuppies out a little bit, which he is good at. You know he's a damn good actor, because he's not necessarily a yuppie himself in real life.
Nick injects.
If you wanted to rob a place, there are smarter ways to do it.
Enlighten me.
Nick continues, wear a mask, case the place, if there are security cameras. This is 1997. Why even rob a convenience store? Newsflash, Big Slim. People with big money, they protect it. Nick runs with the idea. Take Quality Design Group, my boss, PB, keeps a ton of cash in his vault. At night, there are only 2 security guards, and I know the code to the personal system. And he kind of mumbles and stares off at Terrence, who thinks he may have a booger in his nose. I like this kind of comedy. Sorry, not sorry. And Nick starts this wacky voice like a 1920s mobster, and he's mimicking PB, who whizzed through these lines. I never remember McKeon saying this. Diversify. You can't trust the banks. We could wipe them out. At this point, KellyPreston does not know the whereabouts of her husband TimRobbins, and there has been no communication, as well as, if I am clear, he has stood her up for a third time in, I'm sure, as many months. Adults going out is not easy to synchronize, especially if you work for a 50-inch TV. Martin announces, if I'm hearing you right, Mr. High and Mighty
John Gabers?
is gonna rob his boss. Oh, NickBeam, you hear that, Gila monsters? They figure out a plan, talking it out loud. Nick is smiling, accepting applause from the desert around him. Your wife really messed your head up. How much he got, Nick? 600,000 or 700,000. Martin continues to be denied by Nick and declares, I was present at the time of creative inspiration, which entitles me to partial ownership. I love this. He threatens to call QDG ahead of Nick and spoil the plan, ruining Nick's life. Or he demands half. I like Nick's sunglasses. They hold up, and I think they are expensive. They are very streamlined. They've made a deal to possibly rob Nick's employment because at this point, Nick has confirmed in his own mind that his boss PC
PB?
is banging his own wife. Nick's wife is cheating on him, which we've confirmed at the beginning that they awkwardly love each other. But in my mind, the TMCMS popcorn box is telling me that he hasn't checked all the boxes confirming what he saw. That was his wife with his boss PB. I don't know. Is it worth ruining your life? You made a really cool new friend, but we have yet to retrace our steps here. Great sunglasses, Nick. Show you right.
We're at 30 minutes into the movie.
A Route 66 needle drop, and the two new criminal partners are zooming back through the Arizona desert, way far from Los Angeles. The music pauses as Martin takes a roadside leak. Zip! Another zipper appearance in a TMCMS classic, a ref to Just the Way You Are, 1984. An officer is at a desk working on phone calls with papers in front of him as our local county officers walk in, him disheveled and winded. Info from other crimes is overlapping with ours. Chicago to LA, more than 2,000 miles, says the song. Our local sheriff shows a fax of a wanted post with a drawing of a man and a small photo of another, a black and white printout. Highway shooters? Asks the seated officer Bart. One black, one white. The movie, not me. You tell me, says our local. You were there, and they got away? The seated officer digs. They were driving a 1996 Yukon. Seated officer. License? If I had a license number, Bart, I wouldn't be standing here, eating large quantities of shit, would I? No, sir, Bart sits attentively. Monitor calls in both sides of the border. Fax that photo to every precinct on the planet. There's so much as a sneeze out there, I want to feel the mist. Check out the photo mugshot given. Armed and dangerous fugitives from justice, Arizona County. But the drawing is just out of pocket. From that, we blend into the music, I also note, is not incredible, but there is an effort to curate mood pairings, and some of the subject matter also pairs. The needle drop here has lyrics like Nick Cave, I hear a voice, Bad Seeds. It's Mark Sandman, It's Buena from Morphine. Sounds a bit like Get Shorty's soundtrack because they are on that one as well. 1995, a year before this. We cut to our main characters' true villains, McGinley and Giancarlo Esposito, who are nasty, bad criminals, in contrast to our broken but bonding main heroes, Nick and T-Paul, Rig and Charlie Dunt, who is doing his own signature flair, and I always remember that he has a sucker for most of the movie. This character has some origins, strokes to what Don Cheadle is doing in Ocean's 11, and I don't think people really cared for that character. I just know that these two dudes are bad dudes. Bad dudes. Have you seen Shakedown? Because also, I can picture that these dudes come from that world, which is a handful of years before this story, and I think is happening in Chicago. And McGinley plays a young professional attorney assistant, and Giancarlo Esposito is in there somewhere.
Check the credits.
They are seen viciously robbing another convenience store. Terrence and Nick are still driving. A hole is still shot out of their back window. There is a smell in the car. It's Nick's shoes from spilling gas when he was daydreaming. T-Paul finds a prime 1996 camcorder and begins to check it out and criticize. They are just living in like a dead zone. We're just seeing a movie about nothing right here. And MartinLAwerence sort of digs around his seat just to check out what's going on. Maybe there's a comic book or magazine to read. And he finds a camcorder. This is 1cc card. Broadcast is 3, Nick. Martin is showing off his knowledge and experience. On this viewing, I can see that this is a movie where the comedy is coming from the actors owning the script, because the structure seems to not have them do much, but just work out arguments and asking the question about each other, while finding a camcorder, and now we get to dance? Really? Get ready. Terrence sees a running video in the eyepiece of Nick's wife, Anna, rolling in the yard with the family dog, and he calls her a bitch, and Nick doesn't stop the car to slap T-Paul. He does pretty much say, keep her name out of your mouth, and T-Paul is full of wisecracks. He mentions, okay, well, she is monogamously challenged. T-Paul continues to criticize, if you ain't got digital, you ain't got shit. Nick is looking at Terrence because the person who is helping Nick with the camera just set up the office's network. And they run down the Windows versions of the time, which are early stages of what became contemporary Windows and Microsoft. And it has been installed for consumer level, not business or professional levels of networks. So Terrence has earned some bonus points for solid employment and connecting more with Nick, because he's like, wait, this dude installed consumer level? You run a business, you run a company. You got to be on that business level, which is hard to believe, because is it just me, or like every in-between commercial on something you're streaming is for like business level Wi-Fi or something? I just feel like, okay, well, I'm not running a business right here. I'm in my boxer shorts. Nick has another moment of unbalance or social status, asking, why not use this knowledge to get a better job? And Terrence explains, what everyone should know at this point of this recording is not fair out there. And Terrence says, he is not the corporate color, and then stops the one-sided conversation to exclaim, there's a spider on your head. Nick says, I'm not up on this jive talking homeboy lingo, and that was out of the trash in 1996. Nick is not quality creative. He is curvy as a plank of wood. Just then, Nick pulls over and shoots out of the driver's side. The door swings wide. Nick is scrambling to scratch his head and is jumping, jive-stepping his feet high. He has been in full suit this entire time and has yet to take off his suit jacket. His tan suit is matching the evening sands, the sky is low, and violets are vaporizing. Cars' light beams are on NickBeam. Scat, man! Ski bop, 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 dop, 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 bop, by Scat, man! John, aka John Larkin, LMAO, Scatman, That commercial hit signature 90s song is blaring. However, an awkward song, the rhythm, repeating a nonsense word, is working. Shout out to Benjamin Scatman Crothers and Ella Fitzgerald. I'm going to ask a question that makes me vulnerable, but, like the movies we watch, I'm willing to scare myself by asking, does NickBeam have powers of The Shining? Beetle-headed, beep beep bebop, to knock a tarantula, not a spider, off his head. As he is doing this, there is a great camera story making going on. The pants and shoes of Nick are soiled in gas from hours ago, and a rando discarded matchbook is seen in a close-up insert, as this is just a rural roadway. Terrence is using the camcorder to record this, all in subpar analog technology, but recording nonetheless. As Nick keeps dancing and jogging his footing, his shoes are shown, getting close and then stepping repeatedly on the matchbook. The tarantula has fallen off and is escaping the scene. His heel, his toe, achieving a spark. Is this a yellow pill commercial? No, Nick is on fire. MartinLAwerence is laughing his ass off, and it's awesome. He says hot foot, which is something I call running across the street or to get out of the rain with intention and sense of urgency. Hot footed. Nick gets some speed on his jogging, and some of the sand and dust below him put the gas fire out. I think I am always expecting his leg to catch fire, but maybe the suit pants wicked the gas to the ground and Nick's shoes. The beat plays us out, and Martin looks at some of the footage he just took. Nick has fire on his foots, and his physical space is incredible. He looks very comic, and he looks like a true cartoon. And I'm going to be honest, when I first watched Wreck-It Ralph, some of the animations of wackiness, maybe the glitches, maybe Ralph's physicality, something referenced this moment of this movie. And of course, this moment is referencing Chaplin, Buster, of course, but it's definitely a highlight of the movie.
Commercial break. Spotify playlist.
Stop now at a gas station. Nick shows us that they have a fat roll of cash for this stop of gas and asks for the gun Terrence has. T. Paul confesses, I am not going to rob this place, then you won't need it. However, the duo is sloppy, and we are supposed to understand that he is keeping the gun as to not be used or confused. And here we go. His shoes are toast, his socks are smoking as he steps hot foot inside the convenience store. Blake Clark looks at Nick's feet and says, you must be fast. Nick smirks. $20 on pump 4 and sour fruity twist. As Blake twists over to the cash register, he eyes Nick's and T-Paul's gun sloppily put into his waist. Nick, still in a suit and tie, a suit jacket, he looks like a government agent or like a bodyguard henchman. Blake pulls a firearm of his own. It's super shiny. You have tried this too many times? And after years of thought about this movie, I can now relay, I wonder if he is referencing our look-alike villains, also robbing local gas stations, but I don't know. It took me a while to put that together, like 20 years. Nick is genuinely denying those intentions and is told to shut up. As Blake begins a call to our friends over at Arizona County Sheriff's Office, Nick pulls the empty gun on Blake and lowers his shiny barrel. In mid-call, Blake mentions he likes the show Cops and hangs up. Nick says, have you ever had a really bad day? Do you mean post-2016 or just in general? Blake, as rate, replies, I'm having one now. Meanwhile, Terrence is at a payphone checking in with his wife, telling her Nick has a job opportunity and it could be big, and don't worry, he is headed home late. He rounds the corner and sees what looks like Nick robbing the store clerk. This is mirroring Nick seeing his wife cheat on him, miscommunication, the spice of life, the spice of sitcoms. What he doesn't see is Nick is saying, I just want $20 of gas and a sour, fruity twist. Give me your gun and rip the phone cord out. He hands him a lump of cash to pay for the gun and the phone and for the gas and candy. He has the candy now and places it gently betwixt his lips as if it's a cigar. From the good, the bad, and the ugly. Oh, such a good detail of acting work by TR. Now, casually, this white guy meets his black guy friend outside and he mentions he's not robbing him and he can't call the cops. T-Paul is impressed. Nick stands with a sour, fruity twist kicking in as he smirks over to Rate, the clerk, in the window, beginning to gas his vehicle, nods with appreciation. Awkward wave. Awkward smile. As gas station cashier Blake Clark from Adam Sandler movies, and he does a solid job supporting TimRobbins in an amateur attempt at robbing his place.
Gas station cashier, Blake Clark. So we'll have to replace that name. It's written as rate. That's incorrect. Their car is racing down a highway.
Their car is racing down a darkened highway. The interior of the car is greasy, grimy, old with classical music cranked, and a sucker being used as a conductor's baton. This shit is the shit. Hellified love music, and adds this amazing laugh. This is Giancarlo Esposito, along with John C. McGinley as Rig. He's from Point Break, Shakedown, Office Space, Identity, Highlander 2. He at times will be a background standout in a lot of movies, 80s, 90s. Of course, he finds his fit sort of in TV and comes back around again. Giancarlo Esposito is singing like along with the instrumental, like a singled out choir charmer. As they pass Nick Paul, guns out, window blown out, they quickly see a problem to their current crime streak and pull over with lights out. I know I am running long on this episode, but it's a good one, and I want to tell you about the comedy happening in this chase segment because it really shows off a short group of actors, and they are all together in a less than stellar feature. Except for here, we really sparkle. Grab a handful of popcorn. Terrence, I swear white people got totally different taste buds, man. Nick, that's a very racist thing to say. Terrence, in a Draymond Green tone. Oh yeah? Good. Rig and Charlie have run up behind Nick's SUV on the road, going about 60 plus. Terrence, whoa, they're ramming us. Nick, thanks for the late breaking news.
Charlie,
I hate new cars. Rams again and pulls alongside, aggressively taunting and racing. Our turf, baby!
Giancarlo Esposito.
They don't look like cops. Definitely not cops. They are run to the side of the road and into an industrial driveway. I don't know. For road workers? A quarry? In a desert area?
Trigger warning. Trigger warning.
For bullying and severe name calling. Trigger warning for bullying and severe name calling. And some rocks may be falling. Rig and Charlie are out of their shit kicker and have our two heroes at a dead end. Both have guns aimed. Nick has his hands up, and Terrence pulled out his damn gun, pointed it, and was immediately intimidated down by Charlie. The gun is sort of a windmill flung into the weeds next to Terrence, and Terrence relaxes on the window part of his door. I'm cool. We cool. I was just fucking with y'all, man. Y'all live around here? My friend Will loves this part, and it's a major part of why it's a movie club movie selection. Very funny scene, and we are not out of the weed quarry just yet. Charlie, come on, rubber legs, let's go. T-Paul is doing his best MartinLAwerence, Jerry Lewis wobble leg walk, but in his defense, they really are parked on a pile of rubble covered in cactus weeds. Charlie is pushy and punches each Nick and Terrence. They remain helpless. They are worn down by their day, they are pushed to the grounds, and their pockets are run through by Charlie, who is merciless. Both Charlie and Rig call names, but Rig is by far the worst, and McGinley is such a sharpened actor. His delivery is sonically direct and makes me feel awful for these characters. And the camera is focused on the faces of Nick and T-Paul, who look hot and worried. As hot as Tom Sizemore in Enemy of the State, Ray Liotta, or Michael Penn in Rumblefish. No, but hot and frustrated. Rig explains to us, perhaps you haven't heard that my partner and I own the rights to all violent crime on this particular stretch of highway, and we don't take kindly to any unauthorized criminal activities. Rig shoots Nick's fender for interrupting. What were you calling yourself back then? Yolanda? Cynthia? Susan?
Lil B.
Giancarlo asks, where is your booty? During the worst of the ridicule and physical taunting. Now I've done it. I finally found someone I like less than you. That's a fancy case, friend. You know when a sweet-mouthed girl like you has a fancy
Case like this, a man gets to thinking.
Your case is on my list because your case is on my list of the best things in life. Because your case is on my list. Because your case, I can't resist. Because your case is what I miss when I turn out the lights. Where's the wallet? I'm gonna need that wallet, Alice. Where's that big fat wallet? Because our characters obsess over small things, instead of reading the whole situation, or entirety of personalities, T-Paul is thinking he won't believe he doesn't have a wallet. And also, I guess that there's no wallet after beating them, then killing them both is instantly how T-Paul's street smarts reads this scenario. But do not underestimate the power of sour fruity twists. It's like spinach for NickBeams. A bouquet of sour fruity twists would be amazing. Are these organic? Give me your fucking wallet, you little bitch. Nick gets up. It becomes a one-man after-school special. Nick walks into the center frame with two guns pointed on him. Jerk-off bully. Nick has this wet noodle statement about waking up to find out he's illiterate, inbred, POS. And this pisses Rig off, and we see how sunburnt and dirty he is. We see he has a nose piercing, and his gun is pressing Nick. T-Paul whips around to say he disagrees. With a small distraction, Nick and T-Paul gain higher ground by grabbing their guns, and T-Paul goes Martin on us and swings around the two guns and forces a circle around them and whips around to accidentally shoot Nick in the forearm. Grimacing, T-Paul is concerned about what just happened. I am like, get into the car and get out. T-Paul has to say something about shooting in bed, and thanks to the Riggs, who says, put down the gun, you idiot. Nick is doing the, you shot me thing, and Riggs trades, shut ups. Nick's wife does not know where he is, or where he could be, and for what reason. His office would say he went home. He left flowers. Maybe a good Samaritan has found his wallet, and someone has been calling about that info. It has been roughly 6 hours, or maybe some charges are being accrued on a bank card, or falsifying an ID at a liquor store, for instance. I don't believe that nothing would really be binging him becoming missing just yet, but damn, 3 nights of standing your wife up? Whoa.
We're at 46 minutes.
It becomes a group of 4 men, all yelling, "Shut the fuck up" to each other. The moon is up in the desert, and the Quarry is lit like a Brooklyn brewery district patio bistro. T-Paul has their loaded gun and seems the most in control of what happens next. Does everyone have enough popcorn? Martin, then with the pistol in his hand and the rifle being used like a large whacking stick, he sort of caveman crabs, walks to their car and shoots the tire. Then caveman crab walks to Nick's SUV and elbows down the busted hood and gets into the driver's seat, not so quietly, and says, "Boom, cowboys!" I am laughing my ass off, and either Martin or a stunt driver perfectly whips the Yukon around so that a massive scattering of sand and gravel make for a large cloud of dust in front of the 2 villains, because really, they are criminals, and a sprinkle of piano plays us out. When you fart while someone's eating, do you say sorry? When you shoot someone, do you say sorry? Written by Tom Hanks, performed by TimRobbins as NickBeam. It's going numb, he continues. The gunshot is sinking in. He scrambles to unwrap his arm and finds a small scrape. Can you handle the jump scare? Do you need a squeeze toy to chew on? Ease your anxiety about a nice shard. Game night featured a Jason Bateman near wound. Nick, that's the most hideous thing I've ever seen. Maybe if you wrap your arm in ice, they can reattach it. That's a baby gash. Nick disagrees. Shut up. It could have been a lot worse. Next scene, a car pulls up next to the 2 stranded villains on the side of the road. The cheerful stranger rolls up and asks if they need a lift. Charlie scrambles to steal the car, starts off by saying, "Are you from London?" "Me too!" And I mean, this guy is maniacal. T-Paul asks, "Nick, where are we going?" Great question. Good question. He says, "Los Angeles, City of Angels." Shout out to Los Angeles. So, not Arizona. That's wild. Terrence checks on Nick. "Where are you staying at tonight?" "Oh, I'll sleep in the car." T-Paul won't have it and says he can stay with his family. "When you meet my wife, she doesn't know about my side hustle." Nick says, "She doesn't know you're a thief?" "Hey, I'm not a thief. I just dabble." Is T-Paul thief curious? "What does she think you do all day?" He says podcast. No, he says look for work. Nick caps the scene. Maybe if you did actually look for work, you wouldn't have to steal. Okay, that's your perspective, Nick. Don't judge me. You stepped on my shoe. We are at Terrence Davidson's front door, and we enter a darkened family room. Terrence is hoping to cause minimal surface waves. T-Paul's wife, played by Samaria Graham, is at the door as fast as, well, T-Paul at Nick's passenger seat. "Explain this to me now." "I got mugged." Nick pipes in. "I got mugged, he got beat up. Remember on the payphone I was telling you I have a job interview? Baby, that's him. He right there. That's the player right there." Actual line from this movie. "When are you gonna stop getting into trouble, Terrence?" Nick doesn't know. "Terrence? My friends call me T." His family is coming out of their rooms now. He has 2 adorable children, one Disney-eyed daughter, and another well-cast familiar face from 90s family TV. His son has large ears, which is something that is a caricature of MartinLAwerence, and I don't know. I always felt like that was reaching, but it was a part of his TV show also. And then a TV show home run, his mom comes into the family room, or his mother-in-law, and she simply states, "What kind of man stays out until 2:30 in the morning?" So it's 2 a.m. in Los Angeles. They were all the way to Arizona. After rush hour? After dinner rush? LOL. When did T-Paul mug Nick and get into the SUV? Because when things shake down and they start talking to each other, T-Paul is eating eggs at the diner. Was that 9:30 p.m.? After a workday? It was bright as hell outside. LOL. His mama continues. then comes back looking like a bruised turd. Better improvised insults than any Avenger movie. Then a slap gag begins, which was popular in the theater. Oh, did I mention I saw this movie at least twice in the theater? Nick gets slapped. Because you are with him. I know you are a part of whatever badness he's into. You got some explaining to do in the morning, Mr. Gentleman. His mama does pull him to the side to say, we gotta move out of here. I heard gunshots. Gunshots. Those are just arcade games, says some dumb city landlord somewhere. Terrence has very cute kids and is a natural with them. His wife brings pillows and blankets to Nick and adds, Terrence could use a few good men in his life. It is no inconvenience for you to stay here tonight. At one point, Nick has seen Terrence's diploma and technical achievements, as well as a list of replies asking for more experience or no openings. So stressful, I know. Nick has his shirt and tie and suit coat off and is wearing an undershirt, sitting on the family couch. It's just funny that he's been out in the sun and on the end of his rope, and he was still buttoned up. Nick did not use the phone to call his wife, not even to leave deep breaths or ask her to look in the freezer for her frigid heart. Nothing, Nick. Communicate. How do you not have a car phone? T's wife didn't even ask. Would you like to use our phone to call your phone, you deadbeat? Oh, I just got mama slapped. We all fall asleep.
Break.
And now we are putting on ski masks outside of a local Los Angeles general store. I can't believe it. I'm committing armed robbery for 2 flashlights. Let's go! They round a dumpster and into a neatly stacked pile of children's wheel wagons or carts to sort of pull groceries or a child or a dog, I don't know, but they topple over them and enter the store masked. Our cashier here is Henry, an elderly white-haired man like Blue from Old School. And T-Paul goes in loud. I'll blow your ass off if you move. Nick is like, why are you acting so mean? You say scary shit, it scares them. It's a lot scarier if someone is calm and cool and collected. That's bullshit, man. The whole time they are inner arguing, the scared cashier is sort of to the side of his station, watching them argue. Nick asks for Henry to answer to their survey. Now look, Henry, we're going to take some things out of here, and you're just going to stand there. You got a problem with that? Henry, no. Nick again, which one did you think was scarier? Henry, to be honest, I thought he was scarier. Nick, you didn't find what he did contrived? No, it was scary. Well, what part? Henry, well, the, freeze motherfucker part was scary. And then he led me to believe that if I move my ass, it might be blown off. Well, thank you, Henry. That's a wrap on Henry. Clap, clap, clap. Yo, check this out. Flashlight with AM/FM radio. You can listen to your music while the light's on, baby boy.
Okay, these are low quality flashlights. I can tell you that right off the bat.
Okay, thank you, Contractor Cal. We see Rig and Charlie heading on their tail. We just see a complicated neon sign from Milligan's Island. And we get a scene I forgot about and did not register this time around that is wild. This is a slice of trash in this movie. It's a kind of island-themed strip dancing place. And the set is full of ferns, fern-filled, so it's plant-based. And Rig is at the Folly Rosewood Taggart table from Beverly Hills Cop. He's got the NYX Quality Design Group biz card, and it's on fire from the matchbook he's got. Charlie is in a corner bungalow with 2 women, and in the script he introduces them, and there is a disagreement. We, however, do not meet them, but the look is silly in comparison to the other women skillfully dancing for a hair metal video that is this club. And I accuse this movie of having something dumb and obvious happen. These are villains, and after reading my notes, I'm thinking they may not have been in the release I own or seen. Rig insists, Charlie, we gotta go. The scene is just a mess, and it's so flimsy. I'm even thinking as I record this, are they sitting on like lawn furniture? I think even Weekend at Bernie's has just slightly better production. I don't know what's going on in that scene. Nick and T. Paul are headed to the 15th floor. They see one patrol guard at the front desk, and Terrence distracts him by breaking a window, throwing a rock. It's laughable. It's like the base of the building at where Nick works, and they're trying to get in, and we've just been on a straight shot. He's distracted, the security guard, and the hero criminals run up a winding, glamorous stairway. And MartinLAwerence is complaining, I like walking on cool stairways. They avoid any other guards. Rig has the idea to check out the offices, and Charlie is driving, complaining that Rig busted up his party with the two very mysterious women. McGinley has a deadpan return. You are attracted to them. You are only human, and you are a handsome man. They ought to be attracted to you. We will go back. Charlie quips, I'm going to hold you to that. Rig, okay. I mean, it's a different approach. They see Nick's SUV parked in the city street.
We're 1 hour into the movie.
And this is just random. They're just conversating like, let's go check out these offices. That's why he's looking at the business card at this strip club, and they drive up. So I guess they needed that lightweight strip club scene to just sort of give us reason for them driving around and wind up at Nick's job. But I don't know. He does have this business card, and they've made it. We're with Nick. We're kind of following both parties, right? And our hero criminals, Nick and T. Paul, have made it to the offices. They've made it up the stairs, and they get their flashlights out to walk about 6 feet to the QDG office glass windows, where we see a 90s laser beam.
To protect.
Don't worry, I know the code. Oh no,
They changed the code.
Terrence takes a look and tells us there are 5 possible stations. I'm going to rewire it so the others remain active and go into rotation, which means we have 5 minutes.
LMAO.
If that mask is sweaty, it's the one I hid behind my balls as the guys head towards PB's treasure chamber. The office we were in at the beginning of the movie, the start of the movie. They enter a door that has a cracked finish so that it looks all smashed.
Hashtag
Smashing, and broken. And Terrence does a good job of applying tape to the camera. The vault is safe behind a sliding panel, and it looks kinda like Star Trek, The Next Generation, or Alien, set walls and panels. He uses this code easily, so we don't know what was going on with the other one. Both Nick and T have taken off their masks. There is a stack of cash, and as they hoped, they pull it into the bags they brought. To the side of the shelf is a photo of PB and Beam and NickBeam at like the Grand Canyon, lol. And Nick is pulling the cash and thinking, and before leaving the office, he pulls the tape off the camera and flips off the camera with several dozen flips, flipping nobody off, even under the leg. And then pantomimes looking and admiring the statue, Nirug, the fertility god. He goes for a sword from the Byzantine and smashes down across the phallic false idol. Not good, Nick. You need to call your wife. You are now within miles of her, whereas before we didn't know where we were. This part was always cringeworthy. Nick speaks to the camera with his mask off. These are not even 3cc chip cameras, Nick. T. Paul said earlier, so don't do this. You had it all, but it wasn't enough for you. You had to mess with me. And quoting T. Paul, he says, nobody messes with NickBeam. This is not even broadcast quality cameras, everybody. I mean, Nick, he can't even TikTok on this camera. Terrence groans. Nick, sword drop. Terrence is on him like, you showed your face. If they catch you, then they catch me. And I'm not going down for this. Nick actually replies, it doesn't matter. He is stupid at this moment. Enters our flashlight twirling second security guard, patrol guard. the director of this movie, and Jim Carrey at times co-contributor, Steve Odekirk. And I liked and thought of this as odd when I first watched this movie, and then it became like better done by Conan O'Brien and even Kramer. I just had more silly gags to follow. This one aged quick, but better than laughing at someone getting their head shot off. The 5 minutes is over, and as Nick and T argue, they leave behind laser beams. And as they look towards the door, the patrolman is on the floor, unlocking the doors. They dash and scoot under the beams and into a wall indentation that all officers usually have, an ambiguous desk or table for one of Hollywood's tallest stars. Yeah, they're just like ducked under a table and a wall indentation. Of course, it's just a set, and the security guard is like unlocking the front doors. So they know if they just kind of wait for a moment, see what he does. This is wild. While on the floor, Nick's flashlight radio is set off because it's leaning against the table. It's unclear the edits show something happening, and the radio is turned on. Jurassic Park was 4 years before this, and the patrol guard turns towards the desk as Nick presses off, like a raptor in the kitchen. So influential. There is a lame clock on the desktop, and the guard is interested. It's 8:23, and he's set the alarm to radio, and we get a general R&B rhythm track, and this dude starts grooving immediately. He's a clown. He just loves dancing, and this radio plays endless music from 8:23 to 9:47. Dude is sweating, and the fellas finally avoid the lasers and get out of the building, passing the villains waiting in their car. Nick and T are at a hotel. The money is laid on a table, and I mean that T-Paul humps the glass table of money. He's a fool. This movie is sincerely silly. T-Paul is wanting his kids to go to the best schools, and him and his wife to go out all the time. Nick is gloomy and weird. He mentions he's going to take a walk, which I know is a bad idea. We see a series of tequila shots, and boozy hotel music is playing. The bartender, taking inventory, replies to Nick's boozy question. Revenge, huh? Some things hurt no matter what. Just then, 14-year-old me, my dream girl, RebeccaGayheart, says hi to Nick. She's at a hotel in Los Angeles in the middle of the night. What the heck is going on here? Ha ha ha. Billy Booth in QT's Once Upon a Time. She's playing a can of Red Bull, which is fun to watch. She's a flower shop attendant, and we saw her earlier flirting with Nick, and now is still thinking his wife has cheated on him. And although he would be the standing upper in the date that was made, and he is probably 12 hours late on a check-in phone call. I mean, who makes the house payments, lol. I mean, call your wife and give Billy Booth my number. She's dead. Oh, she's dead. She has a hot air story about her friend Sheila, who needed to meet a guy and did, and left Danielle alone.
Nick!
Michael Douglas looks up. She spilt beer all over her dress.
Did it stain, Nick?
She is a weaker Jessica Rabbit, and this movie is like the leaves of a houseplant. They are fresh and sturdy around your house and seem dependable for all season, but as soon as you open a window nearby, and the leaves go limp and wilt and end up looking bad to others. That's that syrup. That's that bad movie.
That's that VHS gem.
She latches onto him and kisses him in the elevator, and the camera scans to show an older woman patiently standing in the elevator. This movie is smiley. It's ladies' night, some kind of version is playing, and we get back to T-Paul counting money in their room. Terrence thinks Nick is at the door and lets in the villains. Nick and Danielle wrestle after she takes the top of her dress off. Nick is out of bounds. Ha ha ha, are you kidding me? KellyPreston is drinking matcha in Walnut Grove right now, waiting to hear from her man, and Nick is passing up 2 landlines. And wait, Terrence used a payphone when Nick was mistaken for a real robber. Maybe that phone I'll give you. You passed it up though, Nick. Nick has been too drunk this entire time, and slows down to a whimper and apologizes as he slurms his way out. McGinley as Rig calls T-Paul Kareem for some reason and calls off Charlie for wanting to shoot Terrence. It would be too loud. Nick is at a phone near the lobby. Anne answers! Oh my god, Nick!
1 hour and 19 minutes.
She looks like she's in Drew Barrymore's kitchen from Scream. Anna Beam. Saw me what? What are you talking about? Friday afternoon, I came home early and saw you and Philip. Oh no! Oh no! I was at work Friday afternoon. Nick. Was it your clone? LOL. Nick, it was my sister. Do you remember I told you she was coming Friday? Well, I made a mistake. It was this Friday. They left a message. I tried to call you at work. You had already left. What about the cufflinks? He left them here after a party. You said he would return them, remember?
Oh my gosh.
This is too funny. Such a water wash. So it was all a mistake. Yes, you
Dick.
Nick needs to reset all that he's done with breaking into his boss's safe, and he needs to head back to his room. Terrence has been left on a chair tied to a sheet that's being held by a glass sliding door. Nick comes in at the right time. Rig and Charlie leave, assuming they took the money and left T-Paul for death's chance. Nick, tequila drunk, wants to open and grab the sheet at the sliding door opening. MartinLAwerence is doing prime work here, requesting that he not do that and call the paramedics and have them bring a gurney. This scene is worth watching, and you can catch it on YouTube or whatever. Act 2, Terrence is like, "Are you on 2 already? Start from 1, Nick." And the sheet starts to slip, and Nick catches, leaving Terrence suspended just off the railing. And then the chair and Terrence fall with the sheet catching and tearing, allowing for some parachuting, and Terrence falls safely onto like the floor below, like the patio balcony, and he is still seated. And now they must be best friends. I won't accept any other theories. Although I think through tequila, through shock, through heightened stakes, Nick makes the motion and whistles towards the elevator. Stop the money! And they both make their way down a great shot of hotel escalators and through a wedding, gathering. The villain criminals have pulled away and have the money out on the dashboard. As Terrence's plan was to ram them, and Nick does. The villains say they are going to use the money for sex workers, and I guess that could be good for the economy, but bad for a lifestyle choice. But the ramming helped because they run into an industrial driveway, street lamp pole, and their car is stalled. From the back seat, Nick a few choices. I'm actually grabbing a gun and going after bad guys. To get the drop on them, walking down a juicy, greasy alleyway, and it becomes a trash talk of who is getting to pull the trigger. And Rig says he's a killer. Yes, 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 yes. That's frightening. Good acting by JCM. Nick takes a moment with his pal Terrence, both aimed at the two villains. No, I'm married, and Nick shoots. Kablam! And directly hits the barrel of Rig's gun, disarming him and shocking everyone. Terrence supports his friend, and the two vills are left stunned, and we see rats up and down the alley. Our two vills are tied and hating it. Police arrive and have their wanted flyer. These are the guys. It was the two other guys. Nick is back in his office chair on the phone with nobody, criticizing a camcorder salesman or IT support about misinforming him on security cameras or his personal camcorder that was in his SUV with footage of his own wife. So we never get a clear picture of what was going on there. But he really reams this phone receiver and feels accomplished doing so, LOL. His secretary comes in and mentions there was a break-in and PB is reviewing the security footage. Remember the one with Nick in and out of mask, flipping off the camera and slicing the fertility god statue? We re-see this non-digital footage, and PB is cringing and upset about the destruction. And just when Nick takes off his mask, the footage skips to Scatman. PB wants to be left extremely alone, and the office is cleared out of various security folks. The night they broke in, there were 2 officers only. It's wild that there are 2 dancing breakdowns in this movie. I wonder what the story is on that. Did the director think one wasn't going to hit, or wanted to join in? We are barbecuing with no paper plates in sight. Terrence is on the grill with help from his son, and Terrence's mama has a special mustard. Nick approaches with a suit jacket. Behind Terrence is a really cool playground fixture, a very large rocket shape that looks to be all bars and poles or whatever, and other playground equipment is surrounding it. It's large and makes for a great backdrop. I don't know if this is really an in Los Angeles location, but it's a cool kids playground rocket. Nick mentions he found out about the barbecue from Terrence's wife, so we are watching a major friendship form, and that's really cool because opportunities like these are not always this real. Nick asks about electrician business, and T mentions the hours sucks. I wonder how many days have passed. Did T make an instant phone call and go to an electrician position? You hungry? We need a new security system. Want to run it? We need someone trustworthy. I told him I know just the guy. We know he's saying yes, and his mama's mustard has gone missing. Nick is scooping all of it and putting it onto his hot dog, making it a bongo dog. And just as he goes for a bite, Mama slaps it out of his face. And then one for Terrence. A stinger scene shows a postal worker pulling up to a sandy shack, maybe Arizona, and hands chubby, greasy fingers a letter addressed to Hillbilly Motherfucker. Inside is a few $100s, and we fill the scene with a grinning, grimy face. This must be a repayment of the early T-Paul armed robbery that led to the sheriff head-on collision. Here's my stinger. Is this grown-ass Gus, after years of servicing a gas station and healthy friendships with Phil and Sheriff Jerry? No, because his name is Earl. I'll see you. Sour fruity twist. Notes I would like to add. Nick has some Clint Eastwood mimicking moments. Low Down Dirty Shame, 1994, Keenan Ivory Wayans soundtrack, and Vibe, comedic formula of somebody is working somewhere else and for a summer hit. We will package a few successful elements for the teens, for the AC, for the popcorn. Nothing to Lose, 96, Money Talks, 97, a year after this, seems to have a similar formula. Blind Date, 1987, Bruce Willis, jazz guitarist prodigy of the time, Stanley Jordan, very, very cool song, just recorded for the film, not able to find anywhere else, and an interesting artist. A gem part of that wacky movie, Treasures by Stanley Jordan. Soundtrack listing, If I Had No Loot, Tony, 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 written by Ice Cube. Nothing to Lose by Naughty by Nature, Honey White by Morphine, Dirty Lowdown, and Bad by Keb Mo. Tremulo Blues by the Presidents of the United States of America. Route 66, Buena by Morphine, Get Down With Me by Amari with Buckshot. See You When You Get There by Coolio contains a classical song, conversational at the time. Because sampling had not reached its pinnacle yet, a straight classical song put to a beat and played as a straight-up hip-hop pop song. Thanks for listening to the podcast, and as always, I do suggest smash that reply button, smash that subscribe button, smash that follow button, smash a message to us. You can find us anywhere you catch pod, as well as Letterboxd at hashtag TMCMS, the Movie Club Movies Podcast. Also, YouTube, hashtag TMCMS the Movie Club Movies Podcast. Be sure to sign up for a Letterboxd account yourself if you don't already have one. If you enjoy following along with movies, or while you watch movies, you also enjoy looking up the makers and production, you will enjoy Letterboxd. And please, follow us there for the podcast choices and suggestions.
Please be kind. Please rewind.